What's up, everybody? Let me just make sure my audio and stuff is working as you come in. Please hit that like button. So, if you're here, make sure you let me know in the chat so I can shout you out. All right. So, usually I do lunch with Lauren on Wednesdays. I was gonna go live yesterday, but I had to take down my hair. So had to gotta switch it up for the holiday. So I decided to go live today, and then also just to let some things settle down. Okay, it was a lot that went on the other day, right? The news about the Franklins came out. Um, there were there's allegedly rumors about the open marriage that the Currys have, and so I kind of want to talk about the danger of basically glorifying marriages. Um, so it's no secret. Well, before I get into it, let me pause. Shout out to y'all. If y'all are in here, let me know. Hit that like button. I'm gonna share the Courtney. I'm gonna share the link like right now. Because I want y'all to call in and like give your perspective. I obviously have my opinions on it, and I'm going to share a little bit about my experience because I'm not going to lie. I was definitely one of those chicks who's like, oh my gosh, go. It's like it was a point, I want to say it was in college where I had like a folder of pictures of like people that I admired, celebrities for the most part, celebrities that I admired, and I was like, oh, I really want to be like them. Um, so shout out to Courtney. She had a first off a super dope live last night. Super dope live. Hey Courtney. Hey Chemo. Steve, how's it going? Eugene, what's up? Hey Kim. Yes, you absolutely should call in. Absolutely. If you're thinking about calling in, just call in, period. You know what I'm saying? Just do it. So anyways, we're just gonna have a conversation. But I was one of those people um that definitely was like hashtag couples goals, relationship goals, all of that, right? Um, and the danger of that is basically there's this belief, right? It's no secret that marriage is the end goal, right? And so successful marriages is the goal. And when you see that, you're like, yes, it's attainable. But when you really like are so invested where you are checking on this couple, you are basically wondering like how they're doing, what's going on. You see their kids, you're liking their pictures, all of that. You see that, and then something goes wrong and it literally deteriorates your view of marriage every time, every single time. And for some people, if you did grow up in a two-parent household, perhaps your parents were like your first like marriage that you kind of maybe glorified or you aspired to be, right? I want to shout out my hat right now, real quick. Cast Tech versus everybody. If you know about Cast, you know what's up. It's my high school in Detroit. That was a sidebar. My bad, y'all. I get sidetracks. But perhaps your parents' marriage was your first like form of like, oh my gosh, I really want to be like my parents. And the moment it goes left, then you're like, oh my gosh, marriage isn't what it's all cracked up to be. So why should we not glorify marriages? We should definitely aspire toward being married, but when it comes to actually like being obsessed over marriages, that is unhealthy and dangerous. um Shout out to TJ. She just entered. What's up? What's up? Hey, hey, hey. Natasha says celebrity lives definitely do not impact my thoughts on relationships. I question the reality they depict in the first place. And we're going to get into that. Number one, it's none of my business. And it should be none of y'all business on what goes on in anybody's marriage, celebrity or not. Not even your parents' marriage. Let's be clear. There are certain things that went on in my parents' marriage as to why it didn't work that I still don't know to this day. I don't really care to know, because what I don't want it to do is basically infiltrate in my mind that, oh, the person that I truly loved, adored, admired did X, Y, and Z. And if someone I love can do this, then anybody can do this, right? So how do we become not jaded? If you didn't know, I posted the link. And let's have a conversation just about glorifying marriages. I'm not going to like get into the rumor mill about like why it happened, why aren't they together, all of these things. I'm not going to talk about that today because it doesn't really matter. What I want to talk about is our belief system and how we let things get in the way of really getting to the end goal. And I'm only speaking from my experience. I'm not going to talk on behalf of all women because I don't know. And I don't consider myself to be part of the larger group, right? I like to think that I am one of the uncommon few. Chemo said they are public figures and they represent the Black community, so it is our problem. So they're a part of the Black community in some regard, but it's not necessarily our problem, if you will, right? Like, we shouldn't be invested. Should we be concerned? Maybe, but it's to the point where, I mean, you had people celebrating the fact that they are getting a divorce. That's problematic. Now, me, on the other hand, I was just like, dang, that's kind of messed up. But I'm not finna go digging to figure out why it ain't happened. It's none of my business. And even though people may look at you, anybody on in YouTube saying you represent this group of people and how you react is how things, no, not at all. That is not how I move. What's up, Red Lipstick Vibes? How are you? How are you? So of course, when the news broke, I mean, all up and down my timeline on Facebook, I had people saying, well, they should have never been married in the first place. Why is that? It's not just Black people, Ellis. It's everybody. I mean, look at J-Lo. J-Lo is being dragged for spinning the block again. I mean, it's both. It's both groups. Hey, Tara. Please, yep. You don't have to have your video on. You can just call. And if you're married and you're in the chat, I do want you to call in because I want to know your belief system, right? Because like I said, I don't think that glorifying marriages is healthy. But if you were, and I feel like all of us have done it before, but if that's been you, how did you kind of switch your thinking? How did you switch your thinking and turn around to be married? We got to call her. The link is in the chat. Hello.
Hey girl, hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad I'm catching you live. Yeah, I'm kind of sick in bed a little bit, so I have much
Oh,
more
get better.
flexibility these days. Thank you. So yeah, this is a great topic that you are speaking on, and I've been hearing people talking about it the last couple of days. And as a married woman, all I can say is stop assuming that somebody's marriage is your relationship goals because you don't know what is going on behind closed doors. I mean, my husband and I are almost 2 years in, and people say, oh, you are our relationship goals. Y'all don't know what we go through. I mean, I love my husband to death, and and we are most likely going to be here for the long haul till one of us dies. Like, we are very marriage minded, and divorce is not in our vocabulary. However, marriage is work. Marriage is absolutely work. And so, we have to just kind of get out, especially women in the Black community, we have to get out of that, oh, their relationship goals and pedestalizing marriages. And then when they fail, you know, they're getting dragged.
Right. And I think, too, it's this idea of perfectionism. Like when couples, I mean, look on Instagram, look at all the families that are on YouTube. They are putting out there the best days of their marriage, right? We're going on trips. This is us taking our holiday pictures. Like people are obsessed with that. They want this idea of perfectionism, this idea that love just looks amazing, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, this is what love looks like. I want that so much. And then when they finally do get into a marriage and realizes it's not that, I think that it's not that I think, I probably know that's why divorce is at such a high rate, because they go into it thinking one way and it's not that at all. And I, talk to my married friends all the time, and I'm like, I really want you to like, obviously married people keep things inside the marriage, right? You're not about to go around just telling you all your business. But I do wonder, is there benefit to sharing some pitfalls, or not necessarily pitfalls, but perhaps like difficult times about marriages? And it's not so much to deter people from getting married, but to really give them that realistic lens of, this is what marriage really is like.
Yeah, I do think being open and honest to those who are looking to get married, seeking to get married, is telling them the real is definitely key. So my mother-in-law, she played an integral part in like the premarital space between my husband and I and preparing us to be married. So this is my first marriage. My husband, he was married and divorced. He's married and divorced, and then this is a second marriage. So for us, they were really, my in-laws, which is his parents, were really integral in making sure this marriage lasts, and asking us those hard questions, because they're 40 years in, right? Like, well, actually 30 years in the marriage game. And one time my mother-in-law and I were talking, and she said, I always tell women, you can romanticize the wedding, but put your combat boots on when it comes to your marriage, because there's work to be done. And she is not lying. And as again, my husband and I, in my opinion, have a really bomb marriage, have a really good friendship, have a really good relationship. But I would be remiss if I was to tell you that we literally have to work at not butting heads, especially the first couple of years getting to know each other, right? And cohabitating, and we brought children into the marriage. So if there's people who are getting married that is going to be a step parent or something like that, there's so many different layers and levels. And so I was forewarned by many different women, like, hey, this takes work. It is not all roses and peaches once you get married. And right. I'm so glad that they told me that, because had they not have, I would have been like, oh my goodness, something's wrong with my marriage very on in my marriage.
That was going to be my next question. So, Sasha, I'm going to bring you up right now. That was my next question to you, Tara, was, did you, before you got the wise counseling that you did, were you one of those types of single, like when you were single, were you one of those types of women that did have like, oh, goals, or I really love them as a couple and I aspire to be, or I aspire to want, like, what, like, was that you? Could you think of, okay. And how did you break that thinking or that cycle of, look, they may look nice in pictures, but like, did you have to break that in order to get into the relationship that you have currently with your husband?
Yes. So before I met my husband, I was what I consider like a hopeless romantic. Like, I was the type who loved to be in a relationship. Yep, Lauren, you already know. I love love. Still to this day, I love love. My ex-boyfriend of 3.5 years, who I thought I was going to marry, he always used to be like, you live in a utopia. Like, you have this very utopian, super optimistic mindset, which I look at as a superpower, right? However, sometimes you can have unrealistic expectations for things if you only look at it from a super extreme optimistic lens and don't get real about things. And so, I did come from a 2-parent household, and my parents divorced later. And like you were saying, Lauren, I have no desire to pick apart my parents' marriage, because those are my parents, right? And they do give me insight on what they could have done better. but they're only going to tell me so much because I'm their child. And
Mhm.
so the biggest thing that I did was got under the wise counsel of women who are not my parents and not super close to me, that could give me the real and raw, like Lady E, like my
Mhm.
mother-in-law, like my other mentor, her name was Lynn, and another mentor of mine named Marnika. They told me the ins and outs of, like, you know what, there's going to be days where you can't stand him, and love has
Mhm.
nothing to do with that. It's going to be about duty. It's going to be about that covenant that
Uh-oh. You still there? I think
whether or not you love him or you got butterflies.
gotcha. I want to highlight the super chat. Eugene, thank you for saying this. No individual could really determine what relationship goals are. It takes two to make that determination. I definitely understand where you're coming from. If you're going to have goals, make sure they're goals that you create together. Not to say that you should not aspire to be or do or have a goal as a couple, but basically as yourself, if you're single and you're like, this is the type of relationship I want, and it's not just the Franklins, it's not just the Currys, but it's more people. What's up, Sasha? Thanks for calling in. How are you?
Hey, how are you? Happy Thursdays, happy holidays if you celebrate the holidays,
Yes,
guys.
thank you. You too, girl.
Yes, but I definitely agree with what you're saying. And I think like an important factor is that a lot of people, we have to stop idolizing what we see because you don't know, like on the previous caller, you honestly, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know if they just got into a fight, if like, something's happening, but you're here like, oh my God, I want this. This is what I aspire to be. No, you don't know. And it's like Instagram. We only see what they want us to see. You don't see what happens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm gonna bring up, you can stay on, but I'm bringing up TJ too, who's also married and is definitely full of wisdom. If you have not subscribed to her channel, please do, and subscribe to Tara's channel too. She has a YouTube channel too. TJ, are you there? Maybe she walked away. I'm not sure.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Hey TT, how are you?
I'm good. How are you ladies doing?
Good.
doing well, thank you.
Doing well, thank you.
I won't be long because I'm in the middle of moving, but I will say, I don't even know why I'm emotional right now, but I think goals really change depending on how old you are when you get married. I think Tara made a very good point that, it's not all butterflies and rainbows. Because I was a hopeless romantic too, and I think sometimes to my own detriment. But also, when I got married younger to my daughter's father, I did not have a real understanding of what marriage was about. I thought it was, feelings, and feelings are part of it, but not just feelings. I didn't know really the role of a wife, and I think I've shared that before, that I've been married once, but I was not a wife before, and without even trying to dissect what's going on with Megan Good and her husband, what I've learned in my later years that I did not understand or appreciate before is marriage has nothing to do with it has to do with the other person and not yourself. And I was not really in tune with that. But also, you have to know yourself. You have to know what you're willing to do to have what you want. And like Tara said, it is work, but it's work that's worth it, because again, we may not like our jobs, but we damn sure get up and go every day if we want to if we want to get paid, and we're going to do what we need to do to maintain that. Having gotten married later, we've been married a little over 2 years, but we've been together for three, and like Tara's talking about, you know combining families at no matter what age, because I think it's a little bit more challenging when you are 52, like when I got married, because again, I was used to living by myself, doing things my own way. But there's still things to consider when you want to combine families, even if you have grown kids and grandchildren. So again, but thinking about that is not what can I get out of it for myself, or what can I give to my husband and his kids and grandkids, and that in return is given to me. I think what we have done, we've become a society of voyeurs. And the reason we are a society of voyeurs because we do have social media and we do idolize celebrities. But Mr. Rucker put it in there. I think if we're talking about goals, I think, some of the goals would be Denzel Washington and Pauletta Washington. Samuel L. Jackson and his wife. Why? Because you don't hear nothing about them.
That's so true.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
They handle their business, and and there's no way in the world that they would make it that long without having their own struggles. But it's nobody's business. And I think, Tara, you were really fortunate, and also you too, Lauren. I mean, I didn't grow up in a dual family household. I didn't know what to do to be a wife. So I was just, by the time I became in my 50s, I had done things enough wrong to try to say, well, maybe I need to do something different. But it's work, but it's work worth working for. So for those who are haven't lost hope, because I'm a hopeless romantic, and thankfully, I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and I hear it all the time. Like I don't even know if it was this live or another live. Someone was like, Lauren, like, are you ready for marriage? And the answer is, I always be like, no. Like, do I have a desire to be married? Absolutely. But am I ready in this moment? No. And it's because of one of the points that you just made, TJ, about like, it's not about you. And I'm honest enough to say, like, I'm still kind of like in this selfish bubble in a way. Like, these are the things I like. These are the things I want. And you're going to have to like relinquish some of those thoughts and feelings before you hop into a marriage. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm super thoughtful, giving, all of those things that men look for in a wife, right? Obvious, like no attitude. I'm like, I always want to do. I get that from my mom. I admire my mom to the T. Like, you look up and she's always helping. She's always doing something for other people. And that's me, right? So don't confuse me saying I'm selfish as I don't do anything for people or for anyone else. But there's this idea of like, in a relationship, I am at times like, oh, what about me? And that's not how it should be. So until I can like completely shift my thinking in my mind, then I'll be ready. But I think we need to be more real about where we are in our journey and where we are in our process, right? Of marriage. And I think that's it. That is really perhaps what is, I don't want to say wrong, but that's the downfall of some of these marriages. Like, it's rumor that the Franklins, like, Megan didn't want to have a baby, and y'all, it's raining here, so hopefully my internet connection stays. But
It
like,
never rains in Southern California.
Listen, I don't know if when I moved, I brought the rain here, but I'm like, what is happening? So yeah, this idea of like, they didn't want to have kids. It's like, maybe she knew that going in and she thought that over time she would change her mind. I don't know the specifics, but if that's the case, like, I'm learning from things that happen, right? So I'm definitely taking notes, and I'm observing rather than critiquing. What did this say? Some need to be patient. TJ is a good example of, you can get married in your older age, stop rushing. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I know some people think it's old, but Lauren, you remember I got married when I was 30. So I met my husband when I was 29, and at that point I was already a single mother for about 9 years at that point, and we got married right after my 30th birthday, and he was 35 when we got married, and so we weren't spring chickens when we got married, and it did feel like, some time had passed before I actually found the one that I wanted to say yes to. But one thing I wanted to talk about is that we can have a love relationship and have a love story with anyone. It's very few people in the world where you can actually do life with. And that's one thing that my mindset when I went into, the courting process with my husband is, can I do life with him? Yes, we're physically attracted to each other. We're sexually attracted. We agree on the same things as far as religion. We have the same ideals when it comes to children and raising them and where we want to stay. But can I do life on a day-to-day basis with him? Because, all those big things, those big abstract things, they come and go. But y'all have to be with each other day in and day out. Like, there is no escaping that person that you've married. And so can you do life with that person? Like, do your lifestyles align? More than just the physical attraction and everything else, which is important, but we have to remember that we can have a love story and have chemistry with a lot of people in this world.
That's true.
Very few people you can do life with.
That's true.
One more thing, and I'm gonna go ahead and hop off. My best friends, they've been married for 27 years. They've been together a total of 37. And one of the things, and again, I will say without any shape, any shame, I idolized their marriage forever. I mean, and I don't know the ins and outs because it's not my business. But one thing she said to me that her sister said to her on her wedding day, and this is very important, ladies and gentlemen. Her sister said to her, if he never changes,
would you be?
Are you going to be okay with that?
I love that question.
And so when you go into something, and I think we women particularly, and also men, we have an idea of, well, yeah, this is something, but over time it'll change. No, it may or may not, but we must ask ourselves, if it never does, will I be okay with it?
That's so good.
And then, and apparently work, they've been together for 37 years of total. So I thought about that when I got married and when I was dating my honey. And, we are very different, but, like Tara said, I love our love story. I totally do. And and things happen when they're supposed to, because I probably wouldn't appreciate it had I got it sooner. So y'all have a good day.
Thanks, TJ.
Me either, TJ. I wouldn't have appreciated it. And like you said, I wouldn't change my husband for anything. I will take him as he was 2 years ago. And he's, of course, progressed in many areas, as men do, like great men who desire to mature and develop as they do. But if he didn't, I would have took him just as he was, because again, there's a difference between red flags and flaws. Flaws you can live with. Red flags is what you can do without. So as we are vetting men and picking and choosing who we're going to say yes to their ring, is it a flaw that you can live with, or, a little nuance that you can deal with, or is it a red flag? And if there's no red flags, go ahead and have your little love story with your imperfect person.
I'm going to add Sean to the string, get a male perspective. But before you chime in, Sean, Sherelle asked the question, how important is an individual person in a marriage? And she further explained, because you are married, does your happiness as an individual even matter? So you can answer that, Tara, because I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, that what really is working for my husband and I, and what was given to us as wisdom, you have to look at yourself in a marriage as an individual and then as a unit. So you have to kind of maintain yourself and your husband as a unit, and maintain yourself as an individual, and allow him to maintain himself as an individual. So in the beginning, before we got married, I asked my husband, what are your personal goals? I just was really curious, what are your business goals? What are your personal goals? What are your fitness goals? Because I want to make sure not to impose myself on those. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a good example. My husband loves to play basketball 2 to 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. In his previous marriage, his ex-wife viewed it as, you should be at home, you should be spending time with me, but instead you're going out and playing basketball several times a week. That's too much. Is she wrong for wanting him to take his individual time to spend with her? No, because she needed a little bit more attention and time in the evenings, right? Mm-hmm. However, with me, I'm like, that's a personal goal of his to work out, to do this 2 or 3 times a week by himself. I'm not going to impose myself on his personal time.
So it's basically, what I'm hearing is balance, right?
It's balance. Yes.
Yeah, it's balance. I hear
that. Just
like
with me, I go thrift shopping, or if I'm doing something with my at-home business, he's like, you want me to get the kids? To make sure that as an individual, my personal time is upheld.
Yeah, I hear that. Sean, you can unmute if you're still there and chime in. What's up, Frank? How are you doing?
Doing well.
Good. Sean, what do you have to add?
That question was interesting, but I forgot the question.
The one I just asked her. The one was, once you're married, basically, does your does your happiness as an individual even matter at that point?
I think that's one of the most important things. And I'm speaking from personal experience. It's very, very easy to lose yourself. I mean, very easy to lose yourself, because what I'm just speaking for myself, you start to conform to what you're supposed to be. You start to conform to being the husband and being the dad. and you look up and you're no longer Sean. Which in some instances may be good, but for a person like me, it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it can you can look up and you're in a bad place mentally, and then effectively what happens is you end up withdrawing from the situation anyway, emotionally or whatever the case may be. So I think it's really important.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Frank chime in too. And everybody, feel free to jump in when you feel the need.
So I don't know. I heard a lot of ladies say some stuff. So I kind of want to give a male's perspective.
Yeah,
First,
please.
I think number one, individualism. We pride as Americans. It's individuality, right? It's you. It's who you are and you bring to whatever role you're gonna play. So I'm married. Who am I, and what is the uniqueness I bring to being a husband that is going to be different than anybody else? Who am I that's going to make me a father to my children that nobody else can be a father to? And I think if you look at the individuality that you bring to a place in whatever role you're going to play, you're never in competition and you're never really insecure or jealous because no one can beat you being better you.
Being
And
you.
so I
Yeah.
think a lot of times we talk about individualism, which is a concept that is totally destroying marriages, totally destroying friendships. It's just kind of messed us up. This independence, individualism, really a selfishness is really what it is, and we just try to make it up. And then the other thing I think that happens is I don't see anything wrong. I think there's nothing wrong with us modeling and looking at these relationships and modeling them and then using them as case studies, whether they work or not,
Okay.
to pull out what principles you can take
Right.
in order to see what is going to work for you. And I think that people just don't do the hard work of looking at these relationships and saying what works. In the case of Devon, who I do know, and Megan, who I do know, I think one of the challenges I think people have to understand is when you get married, and if you gonna marry, if I heard women say, if you choose to marry a person and you know, if you marry a preacher, if you marry a man of God, if you marry a person who is core in these beliefs, there
You
comes a
can
moment in time where you have to choose
shift.
whether it's career or whatever, or do you want this marriage or this family to work? And when
Mm-hmm.
you decide that you want the opposite, some things just can't coexist. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, or you have to be able to change. I think what I haven't heard in the conversation is as I grow and develop, um, any critical thing of Miss Franklin is that, the industry is very big. Directing, you can go to anything in the industry. You don't
Yeah.
have to necessarily stay in the same roles. You know
Right.
what I mean? If you want to keep your family, and you have to just be able to engage those conversations. You got to have
Yeah. Absolutely. It's that shift and that growth factor that you're speaking about. There was something that you said, and I was like, yes, and it made me think of a question. So, in terms of idolizing marriages, um, do you think that is maybe some form of insecurity? Because you brought up that you have to have this kind of like sense of confidence and belief in yourself, and to know that there's nobody else out here like me, and this is what I bring to the table. But the moment you kind of reject that thought and don't bring that into the situation, would you say, and anybody can chime in, would you say that that's kind of like an insecurity, that you're idolizing or you're like glorifying these other marriages because you feel like maybe it's not attainable for you? That just came to my mind of like, is there a
well,
correlation between that and insecurities?
personally, I think like there's certain things that we're all in this space and we're listening at people, and some stuff we're listening at, it's very, we're already in a space where
Mm-hmm.
everything is anti-relationship, anti-togetherness. We're hearing so much. Like, I heard you say something that got me, I don't know, may have got my counseling ear, when you said, I'm not ready for, um I think you said, no,
Marriage.
I may not be ready for marriage. And then you want to say, because I might be selfish. But then you said, I'm not selfish. And then when you explained it, to me, it wasn't that you were selfish. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
that you're not ready for marriage. It's that you probably have been dealing with a lot of people who have never put you first and
Mm-hmm.
has never poured into you. So therefore you think you almost internalizing it as if something wrong with you when it's really
Mm-hmm.
not you. It's just that there's been areas of deficiency where you've had to ask, what about me, if somebody had made you center and point of their plan. There are those
Yeah.
things that are going on, and so many of us are trying to figure out how can we have this success and that person got it, because we're
Mm-hmm.
in a world full of everything else is negative. And so I think in whatever world we're in, and whether we are people who are in the manosphere or whether wherever we are, our space and platform is, we got to make sure we give kind of more of a redemptive conversation
Yes.
that
Yes.
people then therefore can have a balanced way, and we won't idolize people because everything else we hear is negative.
Yes.
Frank, I have to piggyback on what you just said because I thought the same thing when Lauren said that she felt like, oh, I'm not ready for marriage because I'm still in a selfish mode. But no, actually, I'm really a giver, just like my mother. And the
Mm-hmm.
first thing as a woman, I that like perked up my ears too. Like you could be ready for marriage because marriage is not about being perfect. Marriage is about humbling yourself, submitting to the marriage, and willing to do whatever work that's in front of you. And sometimes we don't know what work that is until we're in the middle of that marriage. But the moment that you're able to say, you know what, I'm ready to put my own self aside for the greater good of the marriage, and you have somebody else who's willing to do that with you, that makes for a great marriage, not perfection.
Yeah. And Frank, you out here reading me, okay? Reading me to the T because and like you're right. I have been in relationships where like and I've said it on multiple lives that anytime a relationship ends, I do take time, like ample time afterwards to do some self-reflection and because I'm not one of those people that just relationship hop. I ain't that. I'm going to like really look internally and figure out, okay, what could I tweak and what could I do differently, etc. And so you are right in that I may have internalized some of those things and looked at that as like a negative thing when in turn like it's I just haven't been kind of placed in that number one spot. So thank you for reading me like a book, Frank. Sean, yeah, I was about to say, you want to chime in?
I'm gonna be honest though, y'all. I hear what y'all saying. I think I think for me that I think we make it seem like marriage is the goal for everybody or it has to be the goal for everybody. I think the goal should really just be finding a person that's really your person and having a dope relationship just in general. You know what I'm saying? Like, because all the time we hear about like making it work and doing this and doing that. Sometimes the person just ain't the right person and you end up married to them and next thing you know, you're not married to them. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is like, my goal would be to build a dope relationship with somebody. And if it becomes a marriage, then yeah. And Lauren, even for you, like I wouldn't say the goal is to prepare yourself for marriage. The goal is to find that person and build a dope foundation with them. And marriage will end up being the result eventually. But it's not about being ready for marriage. It's about being ready to really, really connect with somebody.
Yeah, but there is some. I
I
mean, go ahead, Frank.
yeah, I just gotta humbly disagree with my brother. I think people, it's one thing to be in it's one thing to be in a relationship, and then I think there's another thing when you've made up in your mind you're about to be in covenant. It's the same. It's almost the same mind. It's one thing to have a job, and then there's another thing to really be in a career. I think that we have this moment that we believe people are going to evolve into. We're just going to become. It's like a humanistic way of thinking. People have to be cultivated. People have to be stretched. People have to be intentional, and I have to be intentional about wanting to be married ready, wanting to be in marriage. I can have a relationship all I want to and still want to be out and doing whatever I want to do or still deal with selfishness. It is in a marriage and where I have to understand this notion of togetherness. It's this place where I have to die to my singleness and really learn to become one and play and and work. It's not even just teamwork. It's really this notion of becoming one. And so I think a lot of times people just don't take marriage serious. And that's why we
Mhm.
majority of people I know who get married are getting married because the sex and turned them
Was
out. You know
bomb,
what I
right?
mean? and just reality. That's it. They didn't have that sex turn them out.
You know what?
Instead of understanding.
I understand
I
what you
wanted to
said,
chime
Frank.
in, Sean.
Yeah.
I just want to chime in and kind of respond to what you just said too, and I have to respectfully disagree. And the term I use, disagree, I use loosely because there's more than one way to skin a cat, and it depends on the goals that you want at the end of the day. So for a woman, for advice to other women, if your goal is to be married, you should not be a girlfriend. I highly believe you should not be a girlfriend. Because you want to shorten the amount of time that you allow a guy to take up space without any formal commitment. That's just the way I look at it. Judging by how society is now, relationships, boyfriend and girlfriend relationships, especially if you're approaching 30 or over 30, and especially if you have children, that boyfriend and girlfriend dynamic really allows you to be taken off the market without any true accountability, without any true commitment. And so for me, the way my husband and I did it is when we started courting, that was very intentional about, are we going to be married? What are the hard questions we need to ask to make a decision as soon as possible on whether or not we want to do life together? It is not about taking trips at this point. It is not about his and her matching shirts. It is not about any of that other stuff, but just serious. You want to be married. You say you want to be married. I say I want to be married. What do we have to do? Our parents were vetting the other person. Our families were vetting the other person. We're asking the hard questions. We're looking at credit scores. We're talking about life goals. We're not building anything. We're literally asking questions, getting to know whether or not we can do life together. And once we are married, that is when we can take the trips. That is when we can build a dope whatever and do all those other things. But allowing somebody to waste your time for 3 years and then be in and out of relationships, in my opinion, doesn't seem to work.
Okay,
But
so
can
let me ask both. Hold on, Frank.
Hold on.
Hold on, Frank.
I'm gonna let Sean go, and then you can go.
Frank. Okay.
So quick question for both of you all. Are both of y'all Christians?
Frank,
yes, and my husband is an assistant pastor.
Got you. Right, got you. Okay, so so that matters to y'all. It don't matter to me, right? And a lot of people in the world, right? It doesn't matter to me. Wait, hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish. Right. And so that matters to you. Now, everything y'all said is legit, right? But what it discounts is that you can have all of that without having to be married. 100%. We don't have to go through the institution of marriage to have everything that you just said. And if you don't have those things before you enter marriage, then you won't have a long marriage. So I'm not disagreeing with the things you said. I'm saying that you don't have to be in the institution of marriage to have them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I agree with you totally, brother.
And I agree as well.
I just want to ask. I heard TJ say. I just want to make sure I understand correctly. You advise women not to be in a girlfriend, not to be
That's
a girlfriend.
That's what she said, Frank. That's what she said.
but you asking these serious questions, and y'all expect that men are going to be okay with answering these questions and walking down this road, and you're not his girlfriend. Where are they doing that at?
Shout out to you, Frank.
I can't speak for everybody, but my husband answered those questions and all. I offered him before he proposed to me. He proposed to me within 6-7 months. We met in November. He proposed to me in August. So whatever that time is, he answered those questions. So again, it's not for everybody. And I even told him, like, I'm not interested in a girlfriend-boyfriend relationship. And if that's not doable for him, that I hold no issue and we can just go our separate ways. But that was just how I was choosing to do it. And so he asked me vulnerable questions, even without me being his girlfriend, and I disclosed them so he can feel certain that he's picking the right woman as his wife as well. So I was vulnerable as well. It wasn't just him. And so, a lot of men might not do that. Some men do.
No, I don't think they were.
What'd you say?
Were y'all intimate?
Were y'all intimate or anything?
No.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of sexual attraction there.
Y'all are outliers.
Y'all, it kind of got hot and heated. But again, we wanted to expedite we wanted to take out all of the things that would distract us from really making a conscious decision about marriage. Like, I know he was sexually attractive. I know I wanted him sexually. I know he looks good physically. I know he was a great dad, but we really took the time to get extremely serious about, do we want each other to be the other
And
spouse
I
for the
do
other
want to point
person?
out,
Period.
I'm gonna let you chime in, and Mills, thanks for calling in. I want to point out too, though, y'all really are outliers in a way, because one, he was not just, but he had been married prior to you, right? And he's like, if I'm going to do this again, I probably want to do it the right way, right? So I think that's the difference between like how
I wouldn't
you.
necessarily say that, because he wanted to be boyfriend and girlfriend and to take a while. It was my standard that he would even talk about that it was my standard that he rose up to, and that he was happy that he did. He didn't allow him to miss out on a good woman, and me miss out on a good man. But no, he wanted to be my boyfriend, and he wanted to put me all on social media before we was engaged, and I kept saying no.
Go ahead, Frank. You still there, Frank?
Yeah, y'all are definitely outliers. I mean, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful story. I love it.
Hold on.
Me
I'm
too.
sorry.
And I just want to say before I be
I'm
quiet,
sorry.
there's more than one way to skin a cat, and the way we did it is not the only way to do it. So I just want to keep saying that.
Yeah.
That just because we did it this way, don't mean that's the only way it's successful, and that don't mean that you have to do it that way. I just want to keep reiterating that.
Gotcha. Frank, go ahead.
What I want to say was, this is the real dilemma that happens with Devon and Megan, is this way that TJ was talking is what they promoted.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh,
right? It's this wait before, and it was this way, and then when it doesn't work out, it's not the problem that they broke up. It's the problem now their message is now distorted. Their message now, nobody wants to hear that message again. And so when TJ said it, the first thing I thought about was the book The Wait.
Hold on.
You know what I mean?
Hold on. Tara, hold on. Let him finish. Go ahead.
And so I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying this is where we have to be careful when we have any platform to understand that whatever message we're talking, it gets distorted and diluted when we fail to able to produce what we're saying is going to be the outcome. And so I just want to say to you, it's going to be a hard road, TJ, for you to push that message, because you have the most popular person pushing those marriages now just divorced. That's all.
All I'm going to say is that my message is not the only way I did it is the way to do it. That's not my message, number one. And number two, I don't think the fact that they waited was the issue. To me, the fact that he married a woman like Megan was the issue. I feel like they were not compatible in the long run in the beginning, and he even said on interviews that she met a lot of his red flags, and he married her anyway. I personally think he went against what he knew he was supposed to do and leave her alone, and didn't, and now he's like, I can't do it anymore. Again, I'm from the outside looking in. I don't know either one of them personally, but to me, the fact that they had sex, even if they got it popping, I honestly think they would still be having this outcome, because he married a woman that was not like how he wanted her to be, and he was going based on potential and if she would change and whatever else. And in my opinion, they were not fit for each other. So, I'm not saying you gotta wait. I didn't wait with my child's father. I was a single mother before I met my husband. I am not the one that say you cannot have sex before marriage. But what I can say is you need to be intentional and not disregard those red flags, which he did.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna read this super chat, and I'm gonna let Emil speak. Thank you for being patient. So Eugene said, Anton and Rita, Eric and Danica, Nurse and Nerd, and Curlin and Sister George demonstrated different views of a good marriage. And I will admit, there are couples on YouTube, on this platform, that are trying to shift the narrative of marriage as we see it. Unfortunately, it's being drowned out by this anti this and anti that, like in the manosphere, or just in whatever sphere you're in. It is very difficult to actually find couples that are telling you the real highs and lows of marriage. Emils, what do you have to add?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you clear.
Hey, hello everyone.
Hi, thanks for calling.
Um, I would say I kind of really feel like with them, unfortunately, that they were unequally yoked. And I kind of feel like that may be possibly some of the problems. Because when you are considering marriage or even a serious relationship with someone, you have to have that core values. There has to be some similarities. Um, a lot of times it could be a religious similarity, belief. You have to have those core value beliefs as well. And I think that that may possibly be what happened, unfortunately, with them. I think that they tried to started out more with trying to take away from possibly the physical attraction that they had for each other. And they were trying to more or less concentrate that relationship by avoiding having sex until they were married, which I mean, in biblically, that would be the correct thing to do. But I just kind of have a feeling because their value system and their moral values were not the same, that that possibly could have
So
endangered their marriage to where it ended up ending.
I'm let you speak, Frank, because I think we're going to say the same thing. Number one, I agree with Frank, and that. Thank you, Emils. I want to push back a little bit. Number one, um, I want before I push back, I'm going to agree with Frank and say that yes, I got multiple phone calls like, so should I not be saying this prayer Divine told me to say? Should I be throwing away this book? Like that, it is distorted, and now there's a question of like, does is this a formula we should follow? Now, whether or not we, like to say this is not one way to skin the cat, if you kind of look at it, take a step back, in some way, there are some similarities as the formula to be married, which is why you have women holding out until marriage or being virgins because they said that this is the way, right? So I just want to make that clear that even though it's not everyone's belief, it is projected to us that this is the way to go. Secondly, we don't know what their belief systems were, right? And I my question is like, can a woman not be redeemed, or like can they not be reformed? I just feel like um we see, or we saw Megan as an actress in a certain light. We don't know how she was personally behind the scenes. We don't know how Devon was behind the scenes, right? We just knew him as a pastor, and as a pastor, it comes with a certain, lifestyle or a persona, right? And with the actress, what do we think about actresses, especially one that is really cute, sexy, and just very, just out there? She's one of the she's beautiful. And so what do we imagine them as, like, being for the streets. If she did a role that was a little bit risque, like, who are we to basically say just because you have a preacher and an actress that they can't be together? But Frank, I see you're unmuted. I'm
So,
going to let you
so
chime in.
what I want to say is, that what Miss Mills said about the unequally yoked, and I think that's like a Christian concept, right? So everybody may not understand it, but what I would like to say is this: Megan loves God. I mean, and I'm talking personally of having this person. I've watched her. We've brought her to youth convention. She loves God. I mean, talking on a personal level, she loves
Mm-hmm.
God. He does. I think what people don't realize is it's hard to be married to a pastor. Number one,
Yes.
she's married. Like, I don't care how much you love God, to marry a pastor and to have to be in that light is a whole different world. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're talking about a woman who's an actress. You're talking about already people already in your business. And then everything that you do is under scrutiny because the pastor's wife has to be like Mother Mary of Jesus's mother. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is crazy. And so I think that we should show her some grace
Yeah.
in that sense. And I think that we need to understand that there's another level. She's not just marrying just any guy. She's
Right.
marrying a pastor, and we know in our communities how we feel about our preachers. So
that's right.
And I think those are some good points. And I feel like Lauren and Frank, we don't know what to attribute it to. It could be for anything. We don't know if they were unequally yoked. I always say, who the hell has a yokeometer? Who decides if somebody is unequally yoked or not? We have the benefit of hindsight saying that something didn't work, so we just kind of attribute it to them not being equally yoked. But we don't know that. But here's the thing, though, to Lauren's point, look at Russell and Sierra, their relationship goals. And to your point, Lauren, that's the biggest case in redemption. She was a dancer, baby by Future and things like that.
Oh, she was the
Now
ultimate
look
baby
at it.
mama, right? Exactly.
100%. Now she is definitely not even saying, I'm not even talking relationship goals. She is goals in terms of how she transformed her life and transformed her image. You know what I'm saying? So that just proves that, like you said, just because she was singing and dancing, I don't know her faith. Just because Megan was acting, I don't know her faith. I don't know her belief system. I don't know any of that. And so I can't necessarily assume that it's some, sinister, some ratchet type thing when I don't really know that.
Yeah, I think that what y'all are saying is spot on, that we don't know what happened in the marriage and all this is speculation. And I hope people in the audience are getting that. The only thing that was alarming to me was watching the interviews during their beginning, when they were so gung-ho about waiting. And like I said before, the secret sauce to the success of my husband and I's marriage before, to me, is not the fact that we didn't have sex. It was the fact that we did the hard work to make sure we can both do life together. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like they put so much emphasis on waiting to have sex, because they were trying to promote this thing of, don't let it be a distraction. You have the hard questions and the tough questions beforehand, so the outcome is most likely a successful marriage. But then again, he didn't do what he said he was going to do, because he said in a few interviews, Megan had a lot of his red flags that he said he wouldn't marry, like a woman who was an actress, and it was some other things that he said. And he was like, but God told me to marry her. Not to say that that's why they got divorced. I'm not saying that's why they got divorced, but what I am saying is if y'all were unequally yoked in the beginning, and Lauren, you even said this before about how, or no, I think TJ Randolph said, when somebody asked her, you looking at this person today, would you marry them? Not trying to change them. Would you marry them and want to be with them for the rest of your life? It just appeared that maybe he thought she would change in some areas that she may or may not have. And again, we don't know. It could be him that wanted the divorce. He was the one who initiated the divorce. So, but I'm just saying that could be a good talking point, a good thing to think about.
Yeah, I want to read Tanya's message or comment. Since when did Divine and Megan become the experts on what makes marriage work, though? They only gave their perspective and work for them. Well, how it happened was they wrote a book. Like, I mean,
Right.
you could, right? I mean, I that's how they became experts. I mean, not anybody who writes a book publishes an article, does a video, a documentary, we tend to, as consumers, look at that as a blueprint, if you will, right? Like, so you're right. It is their perspective, as much as any couple on YouTube or any other celebrity couple, or even your mama and daddy, our mamas and daddies, right? Like, it's a perspective, but it's how you put it out there, right? Like, they've made this public. They went on Essence. They went on a book tour, if you will, and really preached or said, like, this is how we did it. And, it's okay to marry your red flag in a way, right? Perhaps.
And Lauren, I think your show's gonna go so hot off of these points because I'm gonna say, TJ, I mean, the other perspective is this: if what you said is correct, I didn't get to see all of those interviews. If he said God said to marry her, and then he files for the divorce, I mean,
that's gonna be an issue, right?
Now we got a problem with the man of God saying God said, and he the one now filing for the divorce. I think what has happened is social media and these things being archived is now really messing us up. Because if you said 9 years ago God told you to marry her, and then you the one filing for divorce, the question is did God lie, or did you not hear God? I mean, we got some things that we got to
Wait, I'm
really
gonna let
figure out.
Sean, hold on. I think Emil's wanted to chime in, and then I'll let you speak, Sean.
Oh, okay. I wanted to say too, piggybacking off of what Frank just said, let's just be honest. How many times have we really thought that God told us to do something and we really thought we was hearing him tell us? Now let's
Facts.
just be honest. We have all sometime, I just know that the Lord told me this. Oh, the Lord told me that was my man, or that the Lord told me that was my wife. I mean, let's just be honest. But sometimes we just miss it. We might really feel like we are hearing from him, and some of that is because we it's something that we want. I'll put it that way. But at the end of the day, we're all just human beings, and just unfortunately for them, it didn't work. I really wish that it really could have worked, and we don't know. I mean, they could end up getting back together and ironing out their issues. But as human beings, we just have to be careful about not being so judgmental because we don't know what's going on in their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And, at the end of the day, all we can do is just pray for them that they can both find peace and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, what is more important than happiness? Everyone needs a peace of mind. I'll say it like that. Because
Gotcha.
there's nothing worse than you living out here in this world. You got to deal with the day-to-day stresses of the world. And then when it comes to your home life, you're unhappy, you know.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna
So
let
that's where I'm going with that.
thanks. I'm gonna let Sean say his piece.
I think you all said some interesting things. So let's just say, for instance, if God did tell him that nine years ago, if he said, you know what, marry her, right? Who's to say God didn't tell him 9 years later that you should no longer be married to her? Who said that God only sends one message to somebody? We don't know that. We don't get to determine that, right? Also, just because he's the one who physically filed the paperwork, that doesn't mean that it wasn't a mutual agreement. We don't know that we don't know what that means. We keep inferring these things or filling in the blanks when it's not our blanks to fill in, and we fill it in as if it's fact, but it's not a fact. It's just our opinions. Also, I want to know what y'all think about this question. What makes something a successful marriage? Is it the fact that you get married and die together, or something like that? You married for life, or can it be that this was just a chapter in their lives and it ran nine years? How do we judge what's a successful marriage? So
Sean, y'all not gonna make Sean. Y'all can't make my God schizophrenic. Y'all can't make my God schizophrenic now. God can't say something that's different than what he said. If God believes in marriage, if God hates divorce, and God tells you to marry one, then you can't say God told you 9 years later to do
Speak
something that's
French.
you you
against
you
what he
Speak.
feels.
you
Now I can't
can
go with that. And then the second thing is their vows. I'm not knocking. If they vow said we're gonna live chapter to chapter, then I can go chapter to chapter. But they vow said to death do them part. That's what they vowed unto the Lord, and that's what they're gonna have to stand on.
Come through
Right.
with the word, Frank. That's all
Yes.
I gotta
I,
say.
I hear what I hear what you
Hold on,
said, Frank. My
Sean.
bad.
So I'm gonna let Sir Hell speaks. Thanks for calling in.
Ms. Lauren Melissa, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. To the guys, to the ladies on the chat, good to see y'all. I just wanted to call in just really, really quickly. I heard a couple things. One of the things we do as people is we pedestalize people too easily. If
Mm-hmm.
they got some notoriety, if they got some money, particularly in our Black community, we just pedestalize them. And if you write a book and you're successful, then we examine a person who is successful in one area, and we think that we can listen to them in all areas, and that's we got to stop doing that because that's pressure. And when you are in the light, even as a content creator, and then your stuff goes up, you got attention on you. You being constantly scrutinized is a thing. You take Megan Good's her reputation, her career, and then it's under the magnifying glass of being a pastor, because an actress can be seasonal. They can say, you know what, I'm not going to do this for a few months. If you are married to a pastor, there's no off seasons for that, and so there's constant scrutiny for that. So I do think that we need to give them some grace in this. But I want to say Frank said something about vows, about till death do you part. And as a minister who has performed weddings and done marriage counseling, there is a such thing as Just because you don't physically die, there can be a death in a marriage. It can come to a point where what we
Amen.
has gotten it is dead, it is on life support, and it is no longer serving us. And what we're doing by holding on to this is we're creating a level of toxicity for our children. We hate each other, and we're projecting that venom out to the rest of the world. And I would rather somebody have the funeral over a lifeless marriage that cannot be repaired and then go on and become healthy than to keep the course of a failed marriage for the sake of sin till death do us part. And now now your community and your church and your family got to hear y'all fighting all the time. Y'all can't get along, and the kids seeing y'all cuss one another out. I think we got to give people grace and realize that there were some times where we think God said something and it was really just us. Let's just be real. I think Emil said this. Sometimes you can truly believe that God told you something and it wasn't him, it was just you. And what you did is you used your faith to validate what you thought. And for that, we need to just apologize, because in our community, as soon as you say the Lord said, well, we can't argue with that. There's nothing we can say about that. So I just wanted to say, let's give them some grace, and let's make sure that we promote healthy relationships. But if there's a relationship that's dead, there are some instances where it's better to have the funeral for that marriage than it is to sustain it just for the sake of saying you are married.
God bless
I
you.
want to answer Sean's question about what defines a successful marriage. We talked about this the other day on TJ's channel, I believe. And I said that it's really based on you and your life experiences, and like just, really your life experiences. For someone who may potentially come from a divorced home, perhaps their idea of a successful marriage is to stay married for 30 years, maybe, what is that, 10 years longer than their parents, and they'll feel like, oh, I did it right. To a Christian, bona fide Christian, perhaps it's we gonna thug it out, we gonna do the thing, and we gonna, to your point, sir. But I feel like there's really no like pinpointed, I guess, way to define a successful marriage, because it really depends on what you and your spouse agree upon, right? So, and
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What do you mean? You mean as a Christian or just in general?
In general, I feel like it's different for everybody, whether Christian or not.
Well, so two things. If we're Christian, there are specific tenets that make a successful marriage. There are specific things. That's what we have the Bible for. We go off of what the Bible says. I think what we've done is we have made marriage into what we want it to be, and none of us have the philosophy of what it should be. And so that's why it's so important for us to adhere to instructions. And that's where, as a Christian, that's where our belief system comes in from. Because you said something that was really peculiar, Lauren. You said we could say, you know what, let's do this for 30 years. Let's just do it for 30 years. And then, we get to that 29th year and we know we're about to divorce, right? It doesn't necessarily work like that, but it plays out like that. Because all of us have seen people who you thought would never get divorced, and then they end up getting a divorce. Because some people stay married because they got kids. That's a very real thing. Some people stay married because they are not able to financially sustain themselves on their own. So what really is success? And I think that when you think about marriage, you got to think about this is a life decision. If you don't go into the marriage having that concept that this is a decision that I'm going in for the aim at winning and succeeding, and us being good together, and us having good moments and bad moments, and getting through sickness, and when my mother dies, or when your father passes away, or we have death in the family and we go through sickness and I got somebody to live life through, if we don't go with that mindset, then we will continue to have termed marriages, end up divorcing, and then end up dying alone.
Yes, I agree.
Lauren, if I can say this, whether you're a Christian or not, anytime somebody gets together with somebody, they're not looking for the marriage to end.
Right.
When you say you're going to be with, if you go from the next stage of boyfriend and girlfriend, the next stage of marriage is something that's permanent. I don't care whether you are atheist, Christian, I don't care what your belief system is. Marriage in itself is a permanent set stone of me saying I'm in covenant with somebody. And so therefore, I would just hope that we would, because now we have got to the point where we have to now define, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Successful marriage is that we have permanently been able to build each other and make each other better. That's it. If you're successful doing that, if you can do that, build each other, help help with the mission of whatever we're doing, but stay permanent together. And 9 years is not long in marriage life.
Married
It
is
is in our
not.
current in our time right now, but 9 years is not long. 10 years is not long. And so I think we really have to say and be okay with saying, even if we're talking about giving grace, grace always works when we can admit and tell truth. Grace leads us to truth. The marriage failed, and it's okay to say that. The marriage failed. Now, how do we learn from this couple who has lived their lives in lived their lives among us? How can we use them as a case study that we have no more marriages fail? They made millions of dollars off a book to tell people what to do. They should open their lives up
To say
in
what?
order to help people not make the
Not
same mistakes that they made.
that's that, and that's what I would be watching for. You are exactly right. Is that learning opportunity that exists? Usually, when we hear about splits, they just let the rumors, you know, run the story. They don't never double back and say, "Here's why." And I think that's why perhaps this is becoming a bigger thing, because he's a pastor, is blown up. But then is that piece of like, you have this body of work, this book. It came with a workbook too. I think I might got the workbook. Who knows, right? But like, there's this work that you preached and professed to be like, this is what you have to do. So I am going to be looking and expecting, okay, even though they're not married, can they be on a united front to kind of double back, spin the block again, and be like, look, this is what you need to look out for. This is what we're wrong, and you know, we're fine sharing our story, because it's real. This happens every day. I saw somebody in the chat, divorce happens every day. It does, but it doesn't have to. And you know, we just gotta learn from it.
Well, can I say one last thing before I get out of here? First of all, thank you for letting me be on. I think it's a couple things. They still trying to figure it out. I don't care how many books you've written. When you go through a divorce, you're trying to figure it out yourself. Yeah. Right. So let's give them some grace, some time, because they probably, we're talking about, we have questions, and they probably got them same questions. Like, dang, I done wrote this book. I done went on this celibacy tour. I done said this. They're dealing with that as well. So they're trying to figure that out as well. Yeah. I will say that we should not only look at the celebrity marriages, look at the people who are closer to you. Like me and my wife have been married for going on 15 years now. And look, yeah, we have been through all kinds of, we've been separated 6 times. When I talk about going through the ringer and going through the ups and downs, it's because you go into marriage thinking you know what it is. Like depending on how old you are. So if you get married in your 20s, you got a concept of what it is, versus when you're 30. And when you're 40. And I think it's so important to have these kind of conversations, and then to be humble enough to allow yourself to learn from those who went before you. Like, you've got to learn from people, because you might be getting ready to get divorced over something that's fixable. Yeah. It is curable, right? Right. Because there were things, me and my wife, we were getting ready to get divorced, and part of it because I wasn't the man that I needed to be. But that was fixable, right? And the same thing with a lot of our sisters. You're about to leave a man for something that's fixable. And I think what we don't do is we look at this, we quote unquote success, and we only define sex by popular and got money. And sometimes successful marriages aren't people who live in a mansion. Successful marriages are people who can get along, they are happy, and they are making each other's lives better. And neither one of them are worried about the loyalty and commitment of the other person in their life. That is what a successful marriage is. And I think we got to get some perspective around those who are closer to us. And then the celebrity marriages, we can talk about that, but we're learning from the people who are in our immediate sphere. So again, thank you. That's my piece. Appreciate you letting me on.
Thank you. What a great word to leave us on. Frank, go ahead.
Lauren, I was going to say, my wife is in entertainment. She works in the background. She does a lot of executive producing. And I would say it's hard. Like, that industry is hard, right? There are those moments where, my wife could be working 16, 18-hour days, and we got kids. So it's times that I'm working and I'm doing. I think I have grace on Devon, because I pastor a church in 2 locations. So I'm a pastor and entrepreneur. My wife is in entertainment. And sometimes it's a week have went by and we haven't asked each other any questions. I understand that struggle is hard, but you have to be somewhat intentional about saying, even when it get hard, that I want my marriage over anything else. And I just think that sometimes, some of these careers, it's just a lot of people are not. And I think there needs to be a case study on Black women in the industry, because they are struggling to keep marriages
Mhm.
or to be
Be married.
be married, right?
Mhm.
There needs to be an alarm going on and saying, hold up, what is going on in this industry that we as Black women are
Mhm.
having to sacrifice the totality of who we are
Yeah.
because we're trying to be successful in our purpose. I think
Yeah.
that needs to really be kind of a conversation.
You look at Taraji P. Henson, Tracy Ellis Ross. These are like beautiful Black women that are not married, and I think it's very sad that they've settled in their minds that, look, marriage ain't in the cards. Tracy
Right.
Ellis Ross, prime example. Like, she's perfectly content being single, dying alone.
Hmm.
Like, that's sad. And so you're right. Brother Numpsy said, how much is people listening to the wrong people on YouTube for relationship advice instead of people close to them in their real life contributing to people getting divorced? I think it's just people not listening, period. Wherever they're getting it from, whether it be close to them on YouTube and the social media world, whatever, people just aren't listening. And I mean, it could just be the generation that we're in, or because you can't tell millennials nothing no more. Like, it's like, we going it's my life, and I'm gonna just do what I'm gonna do, right? I'm 31. And you look at other 31-year-olds, like, they're in control of their own life, basically. It's like, I don't like this job, I'm gonna quit. I don't like this, you out my life. Like, we're so quick to just say what we want and what we don't want, that we're not necessarily stepping back and seeing like what it takes. So yeah. I do want to have that conversation of, you had made a point, and I was just like, yeah, I really want to know. Well, for me, where I find a lot of women, and the people in the manosphere finna go ham. You lying, that's cap. Women, I find more women in my circle that are actually doing the work, like, that are like, I'm changing, I'm trying to change, I want to be this. But finding men that are like actually ready for marriage, like, I am struggling to find that.
So let me ask you, are y'all doing the work in a monologue conversation among each other? Because I think one of the times I see is women are doing the work talking to each other instead of being able to really talk to and deal with men, having some engaging conversation with men that don't, it could be platonic men in your life, or men
Mhm.
that you can say are saying, all right, as you're doing the work, yeah, that matters, that doesn't matter.
Mm.
Or yeah, that's where you should be at. Nah, that's not where you should be at. Women do a lot of work together, but I don't know if it's effective towards what men are looking for.
That's right. Like, who's a part of those conversations? Is it just
Right.
me? Yeah, okay. And Mills, you're gonna say something? Oh, you're on mute. There you go. Oh, hold on, you're still on mute. There you go. Oh, you keep going back and forth. There you go. You're good. Well, now you're not. Don't touch it no more. We're good. There you go.
Okay, okay, all right. I was just I was just going to say that in marriage or any type of a long-term relationship, that it is a lot of work. A lot of times we have to forget self. We have to forget self. And in order for a relationship to work, it's like you are each giving 100% to the relationship. Because anytime if one is given a lot more than the other, like say one's given 80, one's given, but the other person's only given 20, or somebody's given 90, and the only person is given 10%, then that person that's given 90, after a while, they're going to get burnt out because it's draining and it's pulling on that person. So I just would like to say that relationships, it just takes time, dedication. You have to be determined in your mind that, okay, I want this relationship to work. So I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to sometimes have to forget about myself. It's not all about me. I have to consider the other person. And I think that a lot of times, if we could just get to that point and kind of come out of our selfishness, that a lot of times the relationships would work. And I was just going to say now, for me, I'm divorced now. I was married for 17 years. And so with me and my ex-husband, we are still friendly. I mean, he checks on me, make sure I'm okay. I'm still okay with his family. But we agreed to this. We realized that for us, we had gotten to that point to where we just weren't happy anymore. We tried to stick it out, we tried to make it work, but then we just realized, and we discussed it, and we realized we just weren't happy anymore together. But that's okay, because we're still, now we have a good relationship. We're still friends. We're each living our own lives. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think somebody said checking on you. They can still be friends. They can be friends.
I'm
Yeah.
from, okay, I'm from out of town. So I live in another state, like hours away from my family. And so he realizes that I'm the only person here. So he'll just every now and then, I'll just get a text. Now, we're not seeing each other, but every now and then I'll get a text, are you okay? Is everything all right?
Sweet.
And I appreciate that.
And
I appreciate that.
Y'all got history. I mean, are you just
yeah.
supposed to be invisible after y'all get a divorce?
Well,
Absolutely
but
not.
I mean it's a challenge. I think it's a challenge that I can care enough about you to check on you. I can be, or I hear people afterwards, we're great friends.
Why
The
couldn't y'all be
basis of
friends?
this,
Married?
so what was the real problem that made you divorce? If made me say, let's end this, and yet we couldn't salvage if we had enough respect value as least the base minimum of being friends.
Well, not for
And I'm not
us.
asking you, Miss Mills. I'm just saying in general
Oh,
when
I was going to tell it. I was
Tell
happy
it
going to
all
tell
then,
it.
Miss Mills. Tell it all then, Miss
Yeah,
Mills.
because we're okay. It was just for us. We had I say a 5-year bad period that we just couldn't get out of it. And some of it was he suffered a really bad back injury at work. And so he was off work. He ended up having to have maybe 2 different procedures on his back. And so he started getting to the point where
Just say you got tired.
he didn't want to keep a regular job. That's what it
You
was.
got tired of pulling the
Yeah, and it was draining. That's why I'm saying that if somebody's giving 90 and then somebody's only giving 10, the person that's giving 90, after a while, it is just
burned out.
So
draining.
Miss Mills, can I ask
It's
you this
just
question?
draining.
Can I ask you this question, Miss Mills? If y'all, if we're married, if let me say, uh, D over here marries Lauren, they get married, and they're both working, and then Lauren gets pregnant. Lauren gets pregnant. A couple years later, she's with the kids. She comes home one day and says, I want to home raise our children. I don't want to go to work anymore. I want to home raise our children. Um, and he says, okay. And she raises those kids for 5-6 years. And then he get tired and leave her. Is that wrong? See,
Oh yeah,
and I bring that up
yeah,
to
that
say,
would be. Yeah, that would
if
be. And
why?
that's why I tried to stay in the relationship for so long. First of all, because we both were involved in ministry. So that
Mhm.
was kind of embarrassing, you know. So that's why I tried to stay in it as long as I could. But also he was really disrespectful, and he would just stay out all night. I'm talking about I would leave to go to work and he still hadn't been home.
So that's
And
what
it
it was
just
about.
kept
Miss
on.
Mills,
It
it
didn't
wasn't about you was
stop.
working.
It wouldn't stop.
It wasn't about the job. It was about that he was out. You thought he was out there. He was out there sowing his royal oats.
It's the conditions
Hey,
that
I
he
don't know what he
created.
was. Yeah, I don't know what he was doing, but I mean, we talk about it, and then it would be okay. I'm not doing it again. Then here we go again, and it just kept on perpetuating itself. And I finally realized he just wasn't going to stop it.
I got it, but I think
He wasn't going to stop it.
I just want women to realize there are things I hear women say when it comes to men if they don't hold a job down. But if it came to a woman leaving her job,
Yeah.
it's expected that a man is supposed to take it and love it and keep going with it. Whereas if a man is down for 5 years, which is legitimate, he had a back injury. Most people don't even recover from those. He has a back injury. And literally, and you was like 5 years. I mean, he just didn't want to keep a job. And it almost sounded like until you got to the point he was out all night, it almost sounded like you just left the man when he was down. So I was like, ooh, Miss Mills.
No. He's working.
You said his back worked good enough for him to go out all night, though. I see.
No, he can work a job. It was just he decided he wanted to. See, he had a car, he's a detailer, and he's done that for years. I mean, he has had clients that he's had for years. And really what he wanted to do was he wanted to just do that. Because he could work. I mean, it wasn't to where they took him off and he couldn't work anymore. He could work. I mean, that wasn't it. He just decided, he just got to the point he didn't want to. I mean, he just wanted to do his own thing, and he just didn't want to do it. And I mean, let's just be honest. How can a grown adult make another grown adult do something they don't want to do?
Right. It ain't gonna
I mean,
happen.
I can't make you.
Mhm.
I can't make you.
Right.
He knew all the things he was doing, and he even admitted it. He apologized. That's why we're okay now, because he knew that the stuff he was doing, it wasn't right, and he apologized. And that's why we're okay.
I think that when people say they vows, I think maybe they need to give the preacher the vows they really want to say, because we go around and say for better or for worse.
Right, that ain't.
For sicker or in health. And nobody ever thinks about what worse will be. We always think about what better is going to be, but we never think about what worse is going to be. We never think about what does it really mean in poor. You know what I mean? Like, so we should probably stop saying those vows and start just saying, look, I'll love you until the love runs out. And that's what we really should say, but nobody really wants to say that. Because at the end of the day I think the majority of people who get divorced do not have legitimate reason to divorce based on their vows or based on their belief system or whatever religious belief system they are. They don't have legitimate reasons and concerns, but because our system allows them to do it, they do it. But at majority of it, if you have to look at it, if you're a Christian and you look at it biblically, there's not there. If you look at it based on the vows you say, it's not there. And so I think the system allows us to get out of it real soon instead of sticking it out and fighting the way we need to fight.
I definitely think that there should be more hoops you have to jump through, as long as it's not any like domestic violence situation happening. But if your life ain't at risk, you need to jump through more hoops before you can sign the paper. I definitely agree. Because I am one that when I do get married, I don't believe in divorce. It's not
ain't going nowhere, huh?
Listen, I've waited long enough. Okay,
exactly.
No.
Yeah. No. Exactly. Because I was gonna say, that's why we held on as long as, because it's embarrassing. Because we did the premarital counseling. Like I said, we was really involved in ministry, so it was kind of embarrassing. But we just had to decide that for us, he wasn't happy, I wasn't happy. Evidently he had some stuff he wanted to do, because nobody's convincing me you staying out all night on a regular basis with no men. Now, I'm sorry. You might have maybe once in a while where you might have had a little bit too much to drink and you couldn't make it home. But, you know,
I'm a,
regularly, that ain't about no man. That's not about no men.
I think I want
Now,
to have
come on.
another live. I think I want to have another live
Yeah,
to talk
right.
about. I want to
Right.
have another live to talk about happiness, right? And because I hear
Yeah.
that a lot about I wasn't happy or happiness being the determining factor on whether or not you stick with something, and should that even be a, a, a way to measure something. But we're gonna wrap it up because I gotta go get my hair done.
Okay.
Uh,
You gonna go get
All
your hair done?
righty.
It's
Well, this
raining.
was a great
hold,
topic, and
Raining.
thank you,
hold,
It's
Lauren.
raining it's raining
hold.
4 days out here in Southern Cali
I know, but I
for the next
mean,
4
Oh
days.
no.
I
So
know
all
it
you
is.
gonna do is going to get it messed up. But go ahead on.
No, look, and I've been working out too. So hopefully, whatever style I'm gonna get today is gonna last me at least 2 weeks. That's the goal.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, thank you, Emils.
Okay,
I'm
well,
gonna
you
put you
guys
back.
have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too, Frank. Thank you so much for calling in. You're gonna have to
Hey,
call in more often, man. Like this is awesome.
no. First of all, I definitely will. I appreciate your show, and I'm so excited about We need to get some more people from the West Coast on the YouTube platform. You know what I mean? I'm
I
tired of
just got
everybody.
here, Frank. So you got to tell me the places to go. I'm about to subscribe to your channel. But yeah, I don't be nowhere to go. I've only been here. It'll be 2 months on January. No, 3 months on the 1st of January. So got to
I'll
find my
send
way.
you'll definitely get it. I'll send you my information, man.
Okay. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
All right. All right, y'all. This has been lunch. This is a special edition of Lunch with Lauren. Like I said, I usually go live on Wednesdays. I decided to go on today. Saturday is Christmas, y'all, and I'm not with family this Christmas, so I might go live and have y'all kick it with me. Lauren's Lonely Christmas, right? Not so lonely, but I'm gonna have y'all maybe chill on Christmas if y'all ain't got nothing going on. You can watch me. I'm probably gonna make some cookies or something, but whatever it is, we can rock together. Thank you for all the likes. Thank you for the super chats today. I'm gonna try to go live more often. This is a really great conversation and one that I'm really interested in because as a single person with a desire to get married, one of my things that I want to do is like learn from the mistakes, learn from the divorces that are happening, whether they're in mainstream media or it's like, in your circle, right? So I just want to put that out there, is that it's not all about the rumor mill. We don't have to conjure up stories about what happened, of what we think led to divorce, but we can learn from it, right? And what we do know, because like I said, if you're smart and you're married, you're not going to spill all of your business onto the streets or even to other people that you may know. So I'm here to learn. I'm glad that y'all are here with me, growing with me. And yeah, make sure you continue to share this. If you haven't already liked it, please do. And I'll see y'all on Saturday. Catch me on Dana's channel, Dana with the Data, or The Real Dana is her channel, I believe. I'll be on her channel, and then we're going to come back here for late night girl talk for the after show. So see y'all on Saturday. Bye.